In this installment, Gasper Galati is being interviewed by Manit Sadra on the topic of abandoned property.
Gasper, what happens when a tenant fails to remove its property and trade fixtures at the end of its tenancy?
Well, Manit, the answer is partially what does the lease say? It might provide guidance on how to handle the tenant's abandoned property. Oftentimes, a lease may state that the trade fixtures become the property of the landlord, or that the landlord can dispose of the tenant's abandoned property.
And what happens if the lease does not provide any guidance? Can the landlord just sell what remains or throw it out?
Both may be an option, but to defend against any claim by a tenant for conversion, which is a claim for unlawful interference with the property, or a claim to the property from a third party, we suggest an 8-step process.
An 8-step process? That sounds daunting.
Not really. I'll lay it out. Step 1. Complete a personal property security agreement search just to see if there might be secured creditors with an interest in the goods. Step 2. If the PPSA search indicates that the property is subject to a security interest, the landlord should provide the tenant's creditors with notice to remove the equipment. Step 3. If a creditor provides proof of ownership over the property or a specific piece of equipment, the landlord can release the property or a specific piece of equipment to the creditor. Step 4. If no creditors respond to the notice delivered, or if there are no creditors, the landlord can consider the property as abandoned and dispose of it as it sees fit. Step 5. Before disposing of the tenant's property or selling the property, the landlord should complete an inventory and take pictures of what remains in the premises. Create a record of what was in the property after the tenant abandoned the property in the premises.
Can the landlord complete the inventory on their own?
Sure. But if the volume is large, we recommend retaining a bailiff or an appraiser to complete the inventory. This will become important when we get to the next step.
Can't wait to hear why.
Well, step 6. If the property has value, the landlord should obtain at least 2 appraisals for the abandoned property. If you hire a bailiff or an appraiser, they have experience in completing inventories and valuations of goods. Their report can be valuable. Step 7. If the landlord wants to keep the property or transfer the property to an incoming tenant, it should be careful to ensure that it isn't providing any representations and warranties as to the condition, title, or functionality of the property. Or, if the property is sold, the landlord should try to obtain an indemnity from the purchaser to protect itself from any third-party claims. Step 8. Keep the inventory, pictures, and appraisals in the tenant file to combat any future claims from the tenant for conversion of the property or from a third-party creditor.
What kind of third-party creditor should the landlord fear?
The government may have what we call a super lien for unpaid taxes, but not always. This is another thing to protect against and a topic for another day.
That was Gasper Galati in conversation with Manit Sadra on the topic of abandoned property. If you would like to learn more, contact Gasper on our website, dv-law.com.
This audio recording was a general discussion and should not be relied upon as legal advice.